Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Greg Gilligan. I'm the Vice President of Operations at RVA757 Connects. Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest RVA757 Connects Innovation Spotlight webinar. We have this afternoon, we're going to learn about a really fascinating company here in the Richmond metro area called Cupron. Cupron's journey from copper-infused socks that helped protect trapped miners 15 years ago to a global leader now in sustainable antimicrobial materials is just remarkable. So we'll hear more about that from the CEO in this particular webinar. Just want to give you guys an idea of what we're going to do today. We'll get a word from our sponsor, which is Centerra. I'll give you an update on what's going on with RVA757 Connects. Then we'll dive into today's topic on Cupron. We'll leave room for the end for questions and answers, and then I'll talk briefly about what's next. This is a reminder, we do record all of our webinars. This one's being recorded now, and it will be up on our website later this afternoon, so you can view it later if you want to, or you can let other people know about it as well. So, RVA, also, but I want to make sure you mentioned too that if you have any questions for the speaker, please put that question in the Q&A chat box, and then at the end, I'll take those questions and we'll ask Chris, the CEO of Cupron, about that. RVA757 Connects is a nonprofit organization, so as such, we rely on donations for our operations. This is a list of our corporate sponsors. And one of our corporate sponsors is Centerra. That's the Norfolk-based company that's one of the largest healthcare systems in the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast regions. It operates hospitals throughout Virginia and northeastern North Carolina, as well as operating its Centerra Health Plans division, which serves members here in Virginia as well as in Florida. Today, we tell us more about Centerra and Centerra Health Plans is John DiGratola, who serves as Senior Vice President for Sales and Commercial Products for Centerra Health Plans. In his role, he is responsible for overall growth of Centerra Health Plans with a primary focus and strategic positioning of the organization, which includes identifying, promoting, and distributing new products and services that produces overall profitable growth. John's been with Centerra for almost 20 years now. So, John, tell us a little bit more about Centerra and Centerra Health Plans.
Yeah. Hey, Craig, thank you very much for having us. And I just do want to give a shout out to Cupron. We were an early investor in Cupron, and they actually have installed surfaces, copper surfaces in a few of our facilities. Their copper-infused surfaces as well as textiles have really worked to help us fight infections and other kind of antibiotical issues. Really good company, and I just want to give a big shout out to them. Second is thanks a lot for RVA 757 Connect. It is a really important organization, and we're glad to be a sponsor for it. I know that from a Centerra perspective, we know the importance of a mega region and how working together with Richmond as well as the Hampton Roads area is an important part of that, the transportation corridor. Centerra is very focused on social determinants of health and how we can bring world-class care and health to the region, not only here in Norfolk, but all through the Commonwealth. As Greg, as you mentioned in my bio there, I lead the sales and marketing, for the company. We offer products to individuals as well as employers throughout the Commonwealth and also down in Florida. And so if anybody's ever interested in helping one, hopefully make healthcare a little bit more affordable and bring quality and excellence to your programs, feel free to reach out to me. My information's on the screen. In terms of Centerra, Greg, as you mentioned, we have a good footprint, not only in the southeastern part of Virginia, but also in the Blue Ridge area and up in northern DC. But we do service, through virtual care and other things, throughout the Commonwealth. And if there's any need for any of you that are on the call to ever, need care or whatever, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to try to help you through your journey. But we're really proud to be a sponsor. We're very interested in making sure that Virginia moves forward, especially in attracting top businesses and making sure that there's world-class care for the citizens of Virginia. So with that, Greg, I'll turn it back over to you. Thanks.
John, thanks so much for that information about Centerra. And also, we just want to give a shout out to Centerra for its financial support over the years, and also to Aubrey Lane, who is your executive vice president at Centerra Health, or Centerra, for his service, not only on our board of directors, but he's also on our executive committee as well. So thanks,
All right.
Aubrey, for your support.
I'll make sure he hears. Thank you, Greg.
Great. Thank you. Let me just tell you a little bit about RVA757 Connects, and give you an update on what's going on. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to improve the quality and life and success of everyone in the Richmond region, which we call RVA, and Hampton Roads, which is commonly referred to as 757. We're a coalition of top business leaders representing businesses and higher education and other organizations. And we're following a national model where nearby localities collaborate on initiatives that advance both regions. And we're advancing this mega region as the I-64 Innovation Corridor. As you can see here, we have several different priorities that we're pursuing. The I-64 Innovation Corridor, they'll become a global internet hub, for instance, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Also advocating multi-use trails, improving passenger rail service. One of our priorities, as you can see, all of our initiatives are listed on our website, RVA757Connects.com, so you can get more details there if you'd like. One of our priorities is to encourage collaboration and to showcase innovation throughout the mega region, and that's why we're doing that in a couple of ways. That's why why we're hosting these webinars on a monthly basis to showcase innovation that's taking place, such as what's taking place at Cupron. So mark your calendars for Wednesday, January 7th. That'll be the next one. More details on the topic. We're just about ready to finalize that, but we'll get that in the next couple of weeks. Another way to showcase them is the importance of our initiatives and success is at our annual Convergence Conference. Convergence is an annual day-long inter-regional gathering of representatives from the Richmond region as well as Hampton Roads. It's sponsored by us, RVA757 Connects, a Chamber RVA, as well as the Hampton Roads Chamber. Let me give you a brief recap of what happened at Convergence, which took place last month in Williamsburg. At the conference, attendees got some insights into how the I-64 Innovation Corridor is where the world will store or is storing, powering, and securing data. And attendees got a lot of information about how we are at the forefront of some technological advancement and economic growth. We had a record attendance of more than 200 people registered. We had a record number of sponsors, including several new ones. We also had strong post-event survey scores. We got a 96% satisfaction score in the top two box scores, as well as an 85% content relevancy in the two top box scores as well. We heard from Paul Soul. He's with the Florida High Tech Corridor. He talked about how his mega region is promoting and working to catalyze the capacity of high tech and innovation in that part of Florida. He shared insights on how partnerships across academia and government can accelerate growth. We also unveiled our Leapfrog strategy, the Global Internet Hub Vision 2035 plan. We to give you a quick background. We looked at 15 different future priorities. We surveyed our board earlier this year and others and asked them what our future vision should be. The response was to focus on these three key areas. And the word back from the survey was to take the global internet strategy that we've been pursuing the last couple of years and take it to the next level, to double down on this initiative, to really make us a unique global internet hub. We have, there are way too many plans in our lives. We have plans all over. But what people are going to do now is follow a vision, and that's what we have. And this is our vision. This is the vision of the future of the I-64 Innovation Corridor. The vision plan folds out, starts off something like this, looks like this, but then it folds out to a 2 foot by 3 foot plan showcasing where and how the world's data connects, powers up, stays safe, transforms, and benefits everyone. On the other side of the plan of our leapfrog strategy is why it's so important, the why factor. Because today, comparison regions are outpacing the I-64 Innovation Corridor mega region in GDP growth. Regions with stronger digital infrastructure consistently outperform the U.S. Average in innovation and competitiveness. Digital infrastructure is a major driver of productivity and GDP growth. And achieving this ensures that our economy performs at peak potential, and not that our leapfrog strategy is not just to catch up, but also to move us ahead. Because standing still means further, that we're just getting further behind. We unveiled this plan at our the Global Internet Hub Vision Plan during Convergence, as I mentioned, and we hear some people looking at the various plans. They were just really taken aback by it. We use Convergence to follow the 5 pillars from the plan and organize sessions around those topics, like powering data or securing data or ensuring data benefits all. We featured sessions, for instance, on the powering data one or on securing data. We had top-notch speakers from around the world speaking there, as well as on connecting data. We had one on the ensuring data, which was PCs for people, and discussion on what's happening in AI here, not only in the mega region, but also the newest announcement that was made recently at Old Dominion University. Let me mention that we put on Convergence with financial support from our conference sponsors, and thank you to each of them for their support. Cox was the presenting sponsor, so we thank them for their support. You may not have been able to make it to Convergence, and so if you didn't, you can virtually attend Convergence. All the recordings from all the sessions at Convergence are now available on our website. Hundreds of people have already viewed the sessions in the last couple of weeks. As I mentioned, our top priority is to spearhead efforts to have the I-64 Innovation Corridor designated as a global internet hub. And as you can view, if you view the Richmond area and the Hampton Roads regions together, combined, we have the core infrastructure in place needed to become a global internet hub. This 2 foot by 3 foot map, similar to the other, the vision plan, explains visually how the I-64 Innovation Corridor becomes a global internet hub. Our mega region has these subsea cables that come ashore in Virginia Beach, and more are on the way. We have robust local and intercity terrestrial networks. We have digital network rings. We have intercity exchanges, and we have more data centers here as well. They're all different types of sizes, and more are on the way. On the back side here, as you can see, is the core strategies, and this explains why a global internet hub, what it is, why it's important, and the strategies that we're using to build one of these interconnected digital hubs. If you would like a copy of this particular map, brochure, or the Vision 2035 plan, please email me, and I'll make sure we get you a copy of it. Now let's turn to today's topic, Cupron. We're going to hear more details about how Henrico County-based Cupron is bringing copper to life through its innovative, sustainable technologies that protect health and enhance product performance. Cupron first gained some notoriety back in 2010 because of socks. Yes, socks. The company had pioneered, a patented process to infuse copper into textiles such as socks and shirts and medical gowns and sheets as well as the hard surfaces like countertops. The countertops that John mentioned that were being used early on in some of Centera hospitals. The company's breakthrough came in 2010, as I mentioned, when Cupron sent dozens of its pairs of its copper-infused socks to Chile. During the 69 days before their rescue, Cupron's socks were among the few supplies delivered to a narrowly supplied shaft to the miners that were trapped underneath. And remarkably, the miners who wore these copper-infused socks avoided foot infections. That event really established Cupron as a leader in copper-based antimicrobial technology, engineering textiles and materials that help prevent micro growth and support health applications in medical devices and beyond. So now fast forward to today, and Cupron has been rebranded as Cupron Performance Additives. The company has embraced a mandate far beyond medical devices. It now serves a broader range of industries in addition to healthcare, offering an expanded portfolio of solutions of all different types for industrial and consumer products. These solutions are now designed to manage microbes, supporting Cupron's mission for healthy lives, environments, and lifestyles. So we're going to hear from Chris Andrews. He's the CEO of Cupron. He is a seasoned executive with 20 years of C-level experience in domestic and international manufacturing and technology companies. Chris joined Cupron in 2010. Before I turn the program over to Chris, let me just remind everyone, if you have any questions, please use the chat function, and we'll get to those questions towards the end. So now we will turn it over, Chris, to you to start sharing your screen, and you can tell us more about what's happening at Cupron.
Okay, let's see if I get this. How does it look? Can people see my screen?
Yeah, sounds good. Looks good.
Okay. So, Greg, thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who's participating today. Before I dive into our story, I do need to amplify John's story about Centera and the partnership that he was entirely too modest. It's really unusual for an operating healthcare provider to carve out the space for innovation, an innovation that actually then translates to commercial products. But Centera, still to this day, John, to my knowledge, the studies that you helped architect and then executed using our technology still rank as globally the largest examination of self-sanitizing surfaces impact on infection rates. So a lot of what you're going to hear about today would not have happened but for Centera's partnership and up and down the line of the folks at the Centera organization. So hats off to you for your healthcare provision. Hats off to you for the economic engine that you are to our economy. Let's see if I can get the slides to advance here. And they're advancing? Okay. So today I am going to focus on this concept of the journey that we've described, and that is what we do as a company and how we got to be doing that. I hope you find that this story and its twists and turns, both technical and commercial, are an interesting story of a business creating something from nothing. We journeyed from science innovator to commercial innovator, collecting more than our share of lessons learned. I'd like to share some of those lessons that are, I think, universal to innovation companies, but also some unique to Cupron's journey, as you'll see. We are really evidence exhibit one that in the world of innovation, the science is, if not the easiest part, perhaps the most predictable part. Discovery at least follows some rules. Commercialization, of course, does not. And while Cupron has its own unique blend of scientific and commercial innovation, I suspect the story will resonate with other innovation companies. And if there's some folks in the audience today, I'll take you, I hope you'll take a bit away from the twists and turns that are part of everyday life for an innovator. So the structure that I'd like to follow today is we'll start with talking about what our business is and what it is today. We'll then go back a little bit in time and talk about how we got there, these twists and turns that I've described. And we'll end with a little bit of why. Why are we so focused? Why is it when you hear the word Cupron, you're always going to hear copper? I hope that your takeaway is that you have a better understanding of that when we finish today. So if we start with what, you saw in our tagline the first clue of what, and that tagline is bringing copper to life. It really does capture what we believe our mission every day is. We started our life as a material science company based on copper. So a lot of folks are very familiar with this element, copper, but you're probably familiar because of its role in either electrical transmission and use or electronics. Cupron is focused on copper's growth or use outside of those, and that is its use in everyday consumer and industrial products for the purpose of promoting health and healthy lifestyles. So let's start there, and that is, where are we today? Currently, you're seeing a representation of just a few of the incarnations of our products in development or in market. And these are through market partners. We're building upon that material science background that I described to bring new and better products across a very diverse portfolio of market applications. You won't necessarily see Cupron, but you'll experience unusual product benefits because of what's in the products that these brands are bringing to you. So if you take a look at this representation, you see textile products, you see liquid products, you see solid extruded products. The solid furniture product in the lower right-hand corner is what John was referencing in the solid surface, self-sanitizing surfaces in his organization. You can see a representation at the bottom there of a fluorescent indication that is particular to our technology that gives the user a clue of one of the activities that it's engaged in if it's being used in the environment. And then that center picture represents a very broad application around skin health, cosmetics, and wound healing that is inherent to copper's benefits and inherent to the way we've been able to deliver it to the human body. So the bulk of our day is spent working with the building blocks of materials. What is that? That's chemistry. And a lot of our day is examining the molecular and near molecular level of the things that surround us. I hope that through the course of today, it'll become apparent in the review of the chemistry world why we're so focused on copper, as I alluded to before. Specifically, our value add when it comes to copper is twofold. That is understanding copper's impact on humans and their environments, and then critically understanding how to integrate forms of copper into the products that you use in your everyday life. Another lens into what is the what of Cupron is via our employees. Most of our employees are grounded in chemistry or chemical engineering and material sciences. Those chemists have discovered really elegant ways to use copper to make our partners' products better and safer. The products we ship are powders, fluids, and plastics to this industrial infrastructure that then integrates it into the products that they make. But as I said, I'm asking you to indulge me a little bit in a little bit of a storytelling, because the story is remarkable, and you're going to see just how amazing these chemical minds are and what they have done and what they continue to offer the world around us. But let's start with the industry that occupies most of our efforts. A little frame setting. We live in the broad category known as specialty chemicals, a subcategory of the global chemical industry. And in our corner of the specialty chemicals world is known with that almost foreboding name called biocides. It's an industry term for managing microbes that are bad for humans and how we want to live. So this graphic illustrates it captures a part of the marketplaces that we work in. So if you If you look on the right-hand side and you see those categories, that breakdown of in this case, $10 billion of materials: leather, paper, food, antiseptics, water treatment, crop protection, professional hygiene, personal care, wood, industrial, paints and coatings, really broad spectrum of places that need to use products that impart the benefit that our product imparts. So our products touch your world literally 24/7. While you sleep, while you work, while you play. Our products are what make the products around you safe and useful. Now, if you expand out from this representation of the materials in one part of our world to the total world, today, Cupron's products can be used in about a $20 billion addressable annual market. So that's the size of the market that uses technologies like Cupron to manage microbes and stimulate healthy outcomes for the human body. So in the industry parlance, we're focused on hygiene and we're focused on personal care applications. And it captures a long list of products you use in every day. Hard and soft surface cleaners, soaps, deodorants, oral hygiene, shampoos, cosmetics, baby wipes, industrial products, building and construction products. The list goes on, and really non-intuitively just how broad these product sets are that need a technology to preserve the material and keep it safe and hygienic for your use. So if you stand in your kitchen, bathroom, or garage and you looked around yourself, you'll see the products containing these chemistries that have been used for decades to keep your environment safe and you healthy. But there's a rub. So let's take an example that many of you likely have in your home. Let's look at the ingredients of a very, very well-known domestic cleaning brand. And I suspect there's not a single person on this video that can correctly pronounce all of the ingredients that you see in that label. Unless you come from the world of chemistry, it looks like probably a foreign language. So welcome to our world, and keep in mind that this brand positions itself as all natural alternative to traditional cleaning technologies. In fact, look on the right-hand side there, how they call out those nasty things that are not in their product. So the positioning of this product is that it is made from nature, all natural. It would be hard to divine that if you looked at the ingredients that are actually in the product. Because naturally oriented products are deemed to be at worst benign to human health and at best supportive of very supportive of human health. And while these chemistries are in most cases very good at the hygiene or personal care job for which they're designed, many of these ingredients are progressively outlawed around the world because of accumulating data that indicates risk to humans and the environment. And they're increasingly powerful consumer-oriented groups pressuring consumer brands to live their brands, i.e. have product ingredients that are as supportive as the brand messaging that they're conveying. And while there's a growing consensus that the industry needs a comprehensive changeover in chemistries, replacement alternatives are few and far between. One problem comes from the global event we've just lived through, and we lived through with our partner Centera in a very immediate way with our products, but that's COVID. Between this massive industry consolidation in the specialty chemical space that happened just before COVID, and then the massive industrial disruption that COVID wrought globally, there's really been no meaningful innovation in the specialty chemical space that's occurred in the past couple of decades, basically. But doesn't mean that consumers' desires and aspirations and targets for the products they need have stayed still. By no means. And you can imagine how complicated the supply chain is that is being disrupted by the demand for alternative chemistries. Billions of dollars of investment can be put at risk by an effort to change out just one ingredient. And that change out is, in fact, obviously, from our perspective, one of our hopes. So now this kind of soft, cuddly image is what we pay attention to around consumer products, right? Or at least that's what the marketing departments hope so. The specialty chemical industry serves the consumer companies that are building the brands built not just on efficacy, but as well economy and safety. And this consumer vigilance I described, this emerging vigilance about what are the products and what do they have, is forcing companies to live the brands they are promoting, like this picture that could easily be found on a consumer products company annual report. So do you think this couple could pronounce the names of those chemical ingredients that I showed you in the last slide? Probably not. The specialty chemicals industry seeks innovation to address a long-standing issue for its ingredients to match the product branding. And historically, this has been a very difficult challenge because the incumbent technologies are often very economical and very effective. What are they effective at? They're very effective at killing things. But that doesn't mean they're necessarily as benign and manage that balance between efficacy and sustainability. Most more benign products historically sacrifice this efficacy and this economics. And of course, chemical manufacturers are long-standing capital investment. I mean, the reality of their prior commitment to bringing products to the marketplace means that there's an inherent inertia associated with that. So alternatives need to be very compelling, not just for consumers, but obviously for the people that are making the products. It's into this complex unmet need that we charge, that Cupron charges into, and would say that we have part of an answer for turning this ingredient list into something that's more aligned with the branding. So that's a quick overview of the what of the world that we are in today. Let's take a second and explain the how we got there. And also how we approach the opportunity in front of us of building alternatives to legacy specialty chemicals. So first, the how of our approach. Guiding our work is this maximum, as you see up there, to follow nature for two reasons. One, we believe that nature's already figured out how to accomplish many things we seek. And two, we believe that it's often done it in a very simple, elegant way. And most scientists will tell you, nature in its purest form, it's had a lot of time to grind itself down to the simplest, most elegant way to get an outcome that it's looking for. Simplicity breeds efficacy and safety and economy, and that's why we try to follow it wherever possible. So if we have chemists in the audience, perhaps I could describe at the end of the presentation some examples of just this simple elegance in action in a product that you would have perhaps in your house. Our platform is nature-based copper. Seeing a representation of that right in front of you right now. And from a sustainability perspective, it's even better because our products are largely exclusively from recycled copper compounds. So the circularity in the industry lingo is very powerful in our solutions. But as I mentioned before, Cupron's innovation is less about what copper does and more about how we bring it to all aspects of your everyday life. The basic science of copper is well known. It's just historically been very hard to integrate those benefits into how we live our modern life. Cupron's innovation is the applied science of bringing it to those products we use every day. Said another way, we are a specialty chemical company using a naturally derived, simple, safe, inorganic building block of human life and health, and that is copper. Without copper in your everyday life, in your body and in the environment around you, you could not exist. And if you could, but if you could exist for some reason, the world you lived in would be pretty funky and grim. So in a way, we're the poster child of a sustainable specialty chemical company. And we're here to disrupt and displace legacy unattractive chemistries that have a place currently in industry, but whose days are numbered. You can imagine our message stands out in a chemical industry because, as you'll see, our entire business is based upon naturally occurring compounds derived from copper, and this sometimes leaves us sitting out in the cold. So why? I mentioned that most of those twists and turns of the journey come from the commercial, not scientific. We exist in part to dislocate, as I said, and displace exotic man-made chemistries that are needlessly complex and not necessarily supportive of healthy human existence. So replacing them with a better functioning, more efficient alternative. So you can see already that we likely are not going to be universally loved by all of our brethren. Validating the old saw that for every solution you create a problem for someone who was already there with a solution. Now, the good news from our perspective is that nonetheless, we've found something refreshing. We now have several global branding partners interested in joining the card game as represented here with our technology. So let's move to how we go about our business of innovating with natural materials and how we arrived at this place. So at one level, and this actually, our whole experience with Centera, to bring them into the process again, followed this very formulaic process, which is very typical of most innovation companies. It's never as simple as characterized here, but one way or another, any new innovation company is following what is represented here. We began our existence in the US when a group of venture capital healthcare investors, predominantly in Virginia, bought control of a company overseas, its intellectual property, and early stage products. And the vision was to be a medical device company, using the power of our proprietary and patented technology to introduce new ways to address a health problem. And our journey was like many of the innovation companies. You confirm the technology and innovation. You can confirm that you can protect it by patents and trade secrets so that all of your investment, you've got time to reward all of the investment that you've made in this new idea. You validate it through third-party studies. The Centera study was one good example of that. You obtain regulatory sponsorship or approval to make new claims about your innovation and what it can do to the marketplace. And then you go out and you find a channel to market. Either you directly go take it to market or you find a partner who's already in the market looking for a differentiation. So remember, we were a medical device company, which by definition is highly regulated in a prescriptive process, as it should be from a safety perspective. And in other words, a long process. So after years of clinical studies and then product industrialization, we launched in 2019 an antimicrobial product. We had launched through licensees before that 2 other medical devices using our technology. We reserved a third largest one for our own use internally, and we launched that in 2019, which was an antimicrobial product, self-sanitizing environment, sheets, linens, solid surface, etc., for the patient environment to suppress or eliminate unintended infections that are just associated with people with compromised immune systems in a hospital environment. It's just part of the business of having a healthcare environment. And we quickly gained acceptance over 24 hospitals. Centera was one of our leading systems that implemented us throughout their system. We had another very innovative system in the Southeast that did the very same thing very quickly. But then something happened. And this falls in the twists and turns category that I described earlier. COVID burst on the commercial scene in January of 2020, impacting everyone hugely, and for Cupron, with great complexity. The country, including Cupron, hit a wall. For us, there was a powerful upside in that the world quickly became educated to our field of managing microbes. But for Cupron, there was also a downside. Our target market was hospitals, and you can imagine hospitals were busy taking care and getting their arms around this thing called COVID. and literally did not have an opportunity to consider and evaluate new technologies while they were trying to care and save lives. But there was also an upside associated with COVID. Major corporations that were trying to deal with COVID started finding Cupron. They asked if what we did in hospitals managing microbes could be replicated in venues of everyday life: cars, airplanes, meeting places, restaurants, hotels, places where pathogens would get transmitted. And as I said, COVID taught the world about the business that we had been a pioneer in up to that point. It was in one of these dialogues with a new potential partner that Cupron had what we call our Post-it note moment. So what do I mean? Many of you are likely aware that the now ubiquitous Post-it notes was actually a mistake. 3M Corporation, the inventor of the Post-it notepad, was seeking a super binding material. And along the way, one of its failures was a formula that generated surprisingly very poor binder that was perfect for intentionally temporary thoughts and actions. So now Post-its and its knockoffs generate a massive global revenue. 3M shelved what it called a solution without a problem, the Post-it note innovation, for 3 years before commercializing the innovation. The parallels to our experience are eerie, and who knows, could end up being equally profound. Cupron's Post-it moment came during COVID as we sought an approach to a new formula that was ultimately, the formula was ultimately wrong. And I mean really wrong. However, in that moment of mischaracterization of the event led to a series of results that were so impressive. The results were so impressive that we thought our laboratory measurements were off. So we repeated the test multiple times. And that repeating of the test yielded the same outcome, which taught us that perhaps the laboratory wasn't off. And in fact, however, our view of our technology was very off. We had been severely underestimating the power of the technology and the flexibility to use it in a variety of environments and materials that we had never even contemplated. Our parallels with 3M experience didn't stop there. We were so busy managing the turmoil of COVID for our customers and for ourselves that we shelved our discovery, our 2021 discovery, we shelved it until 2022. And it's taken 3 more years to follow that innovation sequence that I described earlier to get to where we are today. So when we pulled this mistake off the shelf, our mistake, our Post-it notes moment, when we pulled that back off the shelf and said, what's really here? The mistake led us to Cairo, it's led us to Memphis, and it led us to Budapest. We did not actually travel these places. We name our strategic internal products after cities that are relevant to the objective. These locations, going back to ancient and recent history uses of copper, held inspiration of how we could expand copper's uses in modern products. So our Projects Cairo, Project Memphis, Project Budapest were the paths we followed to improve the efficiency, cost, aesthetics, and flexibility of our base copper formulation so they credibly could be used widely in the hygiene and personal care spaces I described earlier in the presentation. And these are those categories that are desperately looking for different alternatives to the legacy chemicals that we talked about earlier. So about 36 months after the original mistake, our view of what our technology was and could be changed completely. These past 36 months have now opened up Cupron to this $20 billion annual addressable market opportunity that I described. And the partners that are now beginning to assemble around this new discovery are validating that our journey was worth it. So that brings us to today. And we finally caught up. In early 2025, we announced our new product called Cupron Clear. This picture captures a lot more than it appears to. It sort of captures everything, candidly, regarding Cupron's historical arc. And the chemists in the audience today likely already see what that is. It represents the entire technical journey I've just described, culminating in the announcement. And this is where some of the chemistry nerding out comes in. We can now offer the world something that never before was seen. A nature-based inorganic nutrient. Yes, a nutrient that the body uses every day to sustain life is now being used as an antimicrobial as well to control the microbes that threaten life. And we're doing it with a form of the highest form of copper that there is. It's about 100 times more powerful than other coppers that are used in the marketplace. It's clear, it's stable, it's a liquid, and it's at least as functional as those legacy technologies I was referring to, or more so. It's also functionally long-lasting, and I'm not describing antimicrobial or skin benefits that just are durable for minutes or hours, but in some cases weeks or longer. And most importantly, it's economical. So you can imagine the hygiene and personal care worlds might find this interesting. And for the chemists in the room, you might be saying right now, but wait a minute, hold on. Copper 1, the most useful and powerful form of copper, is not stable in a liquid form. It converts to a much less interesting form of copper immediately. Well, it is now. And we and our growing list of partners apparently think it should be pretty interesting to the marketplace. So why? So let's go back to that representation of a portion of the addressable market that we were looking at before. What wasn't obvious when I described this slide before is that 90% of the applications listed here required a liquid in order to be used in their industrial process. So that move from the innovation moment to the industrialization moment is not a small, in fact, it can be much bigger than the innovation moment. And we, for years, didn't know how to convert all these benefits of copper into an industrialized form that the majority of processes already out in the world were using, and that is in a liquid form, until now. So if you look at there are 4 platforms that Cupron offers, you can see a telling difference between from left to right, the first 3, those are all solids. That's the world that we had lived in, which was applicable to a very small part of that market opportunity I described before. But now, on the far right, you can see this natural, inorganic, safe nutrient for human existence is stable, liquid, and very, very functional. So it's pretty exciting for us, but it's very exciting for us now. Back in 2024, none of this was really evident. There's only the promise of some possibility that we and our capital partners, and those are the folks who've largely responsible for getting us here, had a very difficult or at least non-obvious decision to make. And I did promise you some other twists and turns. Recall that before Cupron's Post-it note moment, we were a medical device company. Well, in business, there's no tougher decision than abandoning a long-fought vision and strategy. In short, the identity of the company. And an identity that aligns capital and management and talent and the very hard-won intellectual property of the company, especially at a time when the outcome of such a commitment to change was not clear. We had very little clarity on where the path would lead us. We had the promise of a new technical capability, but in 2024, it was only a promise. And this new capability could open, as I mentioned, an addressable market, perhaps 100 times the size of the market opportunity we had before it. And we'd still be a microbial control and healthcare company, but the new opportunity required an alignment on new capital, new management, new talent, and of course, the new IP that I've been talking about. The existing strategy and human capital and financial capital would not make the journey or would not generate a successful outcome by itself. And we had to decide whether we are going to continue to be that medical device company or serve this much broader opportunity with a broader capability set that we now had. And I will tell you, keep in mind, in 2015, I was the CEO who raised the hand and said we should be a medical device company because of the evidence that we thought at that time existed that made that a very compelling decision. So I'm also the guy who stood up and said that there's a different path that we ought to be going down. Now, one last component of our journey I should mention, adding to our confidence in this newfound science was a very gratifying response early from the marketplace. We commissioned a process we called Scorecard, led by an industry veteran who perhaps more than we could see the compelling promise that had been created by the early evidence with Clear. This industry veteran took our perspective technology to about a dozen corporations, leaders in the global hygiene and personal care space. And he asked the leading companies what they thought of what we thought we could offer them. As I said, the response was gratifying, and those prospective partner companies across multiple industries underscored the opportunity that this now rechristened company, Cupron Performance Additives, had before it. So with this, we had as much data as we could reasonably marshal for this small company in a short period of time, and it was time for a decision. We were blessed with stakeholders who shared our vision for moving forward, and I suspect that they shared that mission, that vision, in part because of what they'd seen this small group of individuals with limited capital and time had done. So the final and most important question around the how remains outstanding, and it's actually the who. Who accomplished this amazing transformation? Let's meet that core group. Most stories of innovation focus around unusual technical achievement, but the technical is merely an extension of the human. So I thought I'd give you a sense of the kind of talent that was assembled and still exists at the company today to drive this innovation that could upend the biocides portion of the specialty chemical marketplace. And you'll see that our talent covers the globe, literally, from where they were from. Dr. Chenyu Wang, a PhD chemical engineer focused on polymer surface behavior from China. Dr. Bogdan Benin, a PhD chemist focused on inorganic materials from Ukraine, Switzerland. Dr. Kennard Brunson, a PhD chemical engineer focused on surface behavior from Virginia, closer to home. Dr. Gadi Borkal, a PhD biologist from Israel, who is a recipient of a Bill and Melinda Gates Global Grand Challenge Award. Todd Miller, an MBA sales professional with chemical engineering undergrad degree and chemical sales experience his entire life. Michael Britt, an MBA operations professional emanating from the textile engineering from North Carolina. And finally, on this graphic, the people who have brought over a period of time Cupron Clear to become what it is today. Dr. Vikram Kamukla, PhD chemical engineer in nanoparticle physics from India. So I urge you to visit our website on more background around these amazing individuals. For a small company, this is some real wattage. And it's a powerful blend of technical and market and operational capabilities. But I will tell you that the real secret sauce that has spawned this unusual creativity is humor. Plain old enjoyment, even in the midst of doing hard things. Everyone on this team graduated from college with a degree in fun. On a typical day at Cupron, technical and operational and commercial questions often elicit clips of Seinfeld, Sesame Street, or MASH episodes as answers. Unfortunately, I've been labeled as Cupron's Colonel Blake from the show MASH, and I'm pretty sure it's not a compliment. But making copper dance is a big part of the joy of this group, but keeping it real while doing so is a job requirement. And the real satisfaction is watching the impact on lives spread slowly in the marketplace. And I'll share an example of that in a minute. So when we started, I described our journey today in the few minutes that we have as describing what we do, how we got to do that. But the biggest thing that draws us is the why. Why are we so focused on this thing, copper? As I mentioned at the outset, we follow nature. If you look at copper, it is by its nature an unusual combination of characteristics that are remarkable and remarkably useful to humans. So it has this curious combination of benefits. It controls bad microbes while sustaining human life. It's a nutrient, and it also manages the microbes that can make our lives difficult or ultimately kill us. It's abundant, so it's around the environment in great abundance. Related to that, it's got great economics. And as I've mentioned, it's got a long and proven safe and beneficial impact on the human world. In addition to this, what I describe unleashed by Cupron is the impact that that we're able to bring because we figured out very uncommon ways to combine common forms of copper. And that's really our intellectual property at Cupron, and what informs our vision of the company to constantly bring copper to life. So the benefit or the ability to see an impact, a meaningful impact in the world around you, is obviously a cherry on top of the dessert when you're coming into work every day. One of our first applications that I mentioned at the outset is one of our best examples of the broad and simply elegant impact of our innovations. Simply put, copper has the capacity to fundamentally change lives for the better at amazingly low cost and effort. Our wound care dressing, our wound dressing licensee, MedCU, has brought the simple power of copper to wound dressings. MedCU is upending standards of healthcare globally, now in 25 countries. MedCU's wound dressings solve the most intractable wound challenges, from diabetic to burns to very complex battlefield wounds. Witness the image here, our donation to the Ukrainian army, where infection is often the greatest enemy. And I can tell you the outreach from patients whose lives have been changed by a simple wound dressing is profoundly humbling. Finally, on a larger scale, we feel that we've engaged in a virtuous trade-off. Our natural solution to these complex legacy chemicals that are no longer appropriate is really a powerful process in which to be engaged. When we succeeded at scale, the more we build acceptance of this inexpensive, highly effective, safe, and sustainable alternative, the more we displace or eliminate legacy chemistries that are not helpful to the environment or humans. So with that survey course of the journey, the twists and turns of Cupron, I will turn it back over to you, Greg, and I'll let you manage the process going forward. But I really appreciate everybody's time today. Thank you.
That was just fascinating. I mean, the twists and turns and the products that you have developed there at Cupron over the years is just remarkable. If you just stop sharing your screen for a second, that'd be great. I do while you're doing that, I do have some questions for you. If anyone has any questions, please use the chat function, and we'll try to get to some of these questions. But Chris, to start off, you talk about these market partners. Can you give us some examples of what you mean by that? I mean, are these names that we would recognize?
Yeah. So in product development, we're under NDA with a lot of these companies, but I can speak around that and give you an indication of what we're talking about. So in the value chain or the ecosystem of a consumer product, let's take that for an example. You're going to have brands that if you walked into Kroger and looked at the aisles, you're going to recognize all those brands. Those brands actually buy chemistries from intermediate companies, and those chemistry companies get the solutions from us. So we identify an opportunity of a way to make either a product better or to make a product that someone's never thought of before because of what we know about copper, we take it to those early stage specialty chemical companies. They blend and formulate and ultimately sell to, and I'm just picking names, I'm not ascribing any attachment here, but Clorox, Procter and Gamble. It's these kind of consumer product companies that are constantly looking for ways to improve their existing products or expand shelf space. So the applications were, and I mentioned a bunch of them: surface disinfectants, mold and mildew prevention, textiles, both performance and industrial textiles, personal care, deodorants, skin enhancements, things like that. So we're really at the early stage of a product's life cycle.
And to kind of dovetail on that, Chris, you talk about why does it take so long to figure out what copper's utility could do in products and get it into products? Why did it take so long? I mean, I'm not a scientist, so forgive me.
Well, no, at its simplest level is this: copper's really got an unusual, a unique way in the forms of copper that it wants to exist. It's ionic states. And its most powerful ionic state, which yields all of the benefits I've just described, doesn't play nice. It doesn't want to stay in that state in any kind of product that we use in our daily existence. What we figured out is how to isolate it in that state and preserve it, regardless what plastic or polymer, natural or man-made, synthetic, whatever, that we can get it into that polymer that is what that product is made of, and it exhibits the copper benefit. That's what our innovation is. And the reason it's taken so long, perhaps nobody was patient enough to go through the twists and turns that you just heard about.
We got a question. Let's talk, if you don't mind. You mentioned your initial investors that invested into the company. That's why you brought it here. I think it was from Israel. I think originally
Yep.
The company was based and brought it here. So are those investors still involved in the company? And what about, have you taken on any more investment this year?
Yeah. So the answer is yes to both questions. We inherited a group of investors that were associated with the original company, and those that were the investors that brought the company to Virginia. And many of those folks, with some new added customers who've seen the new focus of our company and joined the capital base as Cupron became Cupron Performance Additives, based on what you just heard. We have new investors that joined us at that point.
Gotcha. Are there any other final questions for Chris? I don't see any. With time on our hands. So Chris, thank you very much. Let me just briefly talk about what's happening here going forward. We appreciate you telling us a lot about what copper and bringing it to life here in Virginia. What's next with RVA757 Connect? Just a reminder, you can go to our website to see our various initiatives, to know what we're doing. Remember, this is being recorded, so this will be on our website sometime in the next couple of hours. So you can go back, and if you didn't quite get it for your I'm gonna have to review this for myself. I didn't quite get everything, Chris, but was all very, very helpful. And all of our webinars are also on our website from 2022, 2023, last year, and this year. So you can go back and watch any of these particular webinars. Remember, mark your calendar for January, Wednesday, January 7th, for our next Innovation Spotlight webinar at noon. And thank you again to Chris for giving us an excellent explanation as to what's happening. It's fascinating, the innovation that's taking place here in the Richmond metro area and part of the I-64 Innovation Corridor. And then also thank you again to Centera for sponsoring today's webinar. We really do appreciate not only you doing that, but also your financial support for us and stuff. And there's a question in the chat. Let me see if I can get to it. I don't know if we have the time for that. Anyway, thank you very much. I can't get to that question. I apologize. We'll take it back to that question. Thank you, everyone, for for doing it, for being a part of our webinar today. Happy holidays, everyone, and we'll see you next year in 2026. Remember our next webinar. Again, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.